What's good, folks?
What's
Welcome, welcome, welcome.
good?
Another Friday with Graham having good internet. And yeah.
I'm gonna
I'm
buy him a
here.
landline. I'm gonna buy him one of them long landlines. He can just run it from wherever he needs to his computer.
Yeah, we're definitely in the building. And so, to kind of jump right in, matter of fact, no, I don't want to jump right in. How y'all doing, man? Let's do like a little check-in.
I'm good. I'm a little tense, a little stressed out. I got a baby that could pop at any moment.
Yeah.
So
Ooh.
I'm just like checking my phone, just making sure there are no messages I missed or anything like that. So, uh, but otherwise I'm doing well, man. I'm glad to be here.
Yo, we know that
You
like
about to,
that.
yeah, you
Congrats.
about to, congrats. You about to enter the world of two, and that's a whole different story.
Yeah, man.
Yo.
You think you can still play man to man, but nah, you got to go to zone.
You got not zone.
You got to go to zone defense on that.
Yeah, nah, for sure, for sure. So, Steve, how you doing, man? You good?
I'm good. Work is good. Home is good. Boys are in school, doing the things they need to do, and so things are well. World outside is crazy, but inside we doing our thing.
Yeah, that's what's up, man. It's very important for us to have those containers of safety and those safety nets in order to kind of make sure that we're good mentally and physically. So, thanks for sharing that. All right,
Yeah.
so really quickly, Graham, you brought this idea up, and you were like, "Hey, man, we probably need to talk about this. This is definitely something that we should do in a responsible and respectful way, right?" So we're
Yeah.
discussing political violence in schools through healthy discourse. And so, what was your initial mindset when you're like, "Hey, yeah, this is timely, and we probably need to talk about this"?
Yeah, man. I mean, one of the things was like when we heard all the news about the craziness that happened this week. I could see the different reactions that school leaders had and people in our universe had about how to respond. And there was like this big range of like, we should pretend like this didn't happen, and we shouldn't talk about it, and we shouldn't bring it up, or we should kind of drop everything and go really deep on this and spend a lot of time discussing it. And I think that range kind of highlighted for me that like obviously political violence is unacceptable, but also like panic helps no one. And that, as school leaders, we have the responsibility to, lower the temperature in our buildings, to validate feelings, to correct misinformation, and get back to the predictable routines, which is why people, come to our schools, work at our schools, are educated by our teachers, so that people feel safe. And I feel like there's not enough discussion about how people should be who are in those positions of leadership, like should be making those choices on behalf of their school and broader communities to make sure people continue to feel safe and get what they need.
Yeah. No, that's a excellent segue. Steve, you're a nonprofit, man. What's the discourse going to be like for you?
Unfortunately, we have had to build protocols for these types of situations when we're dealing with, college students on campus. Political violence and violence generally connected to college campuses has been obviously not, unfortunately, a uncommon thing that has over the last couple decades. And so we've had to build plans for this. And so for us, it's really about how we begin to execute our plans, make sure our students are safe, make sure they have what they have. We are fortunate that most of our students are quote unquote adults, right? And unfortunately have had to deal with tragedy and violence in other experiences. And so this isn't sort of fresh and new. I think the younger a student is, the more like this can crush a worldview on opening. And not that our students are cynics, but that our students at least unfortunately have had to deal with not the exact same situation, but similar situations. And so really for us, it was about dusting off plans and figuring out how we begin to execute to make sure that we hold space for our staff and students as best we can.
Yeah. So when I think about these situations, and you guys are right, like these are way too often occurrences that are happening. I start to think about like the teachers, right? And so I remember my time as a teacher, and so every Friday or like when something happened in the news, like we do current events and like we do the things that were necessary in order to kind of bring the space that was needed in order for students to process these types of events. And so my fear is that because some of this stuff is so volatile to where that may be lost in translation in terms of that being able to happen, so that these containers that kids need in order to process their feelings and process situations or whatever are not occurring. And so based off of that, like what are you guys thinking in terms of the conversations that should be had with kids?
Well, I mean, I think one of the things that kind of came up in this particular conversation, I mean, for better for worse, I think for better, at least in this situation, none of our students had phones on them, so like they were not aware that this happened, and so I think sometimes as educators might project the world that we experience onto our students and kind of expect them to be kind of inundated with all of this news and all these things. Where the reality is like most middle schoolers and many high schoolers had no idea who this person was or what happened to him, and the fallout, the video, all the graphic stuff, and so we needed to make sure that we weren't that we were just being sort of neutral, not overblowing the situation, and inadvertently exposing students to become curious about something like this that might lead them in the wrong direction, because at the end of the day, like the part of the internet where a lot of this discourse lives may not actually touch many students, and so we wanted to be clear about the facts and what students needed to know, and then just and then kind of move quickly with some observation and feeling out like how people respond to that, to see if there are any follow-ups that were necessary.
Yeah, and I think this combines like something we were talking about last week too, but like this combines the idea of exposure, right? And if students haven't been exposed to it yet, is the school the one that exposes them to the information, right? This brings up like the school responsibility and exposure, and how do you approach that? Parents thoughts about whether or not this should be something that is shared in the school setting versus shared at home, particularly as you get to younger and younger students. Because I think this is really complicated for school leaders to be able to tackle with, for leader generally to be able to tackle with, particularly for those who are younger, right? As you said, many of our students didn't know what was going on, don't know who the individual was, and so like the fact that you are potentially bringing this information as new to students means you have to treat it with even more care than if it was known to them already.
Yeah, but then that would require the educators to have that ethos of care that that they would need to have, and not every educator has that. One, two, we also don't know like the political, nor do we need to know like the political views of educators, right? Because like there's a slant that could happen in terms
it could
of
color their way they respond,
given that positional power in order to have that discussion. But beyond that, I just remember my time being a social studies teacher, and like regardless of whatever my political views were, like keeping that outside of the classroom, like keeping that outside of my students, right? So like I tried like super hard to make sure that they didn't know who I was voting for, or they didn't know like what my political views were, because like I didn't want that to interfere with them having and being able to develop their own mindset behind like what works for them, right? The goal of a social studies teacher is to help to create good citizens, right? And so being a good citizen is paying your taxes. Being a good citizen is questioning authority. Being a good citizen is voting, right? All the things that come under like being a good citizen. And, we have to like put them in positions to where they can use their critical thinking skills in order to fight through some of the challenges that may exist in education.
Yeah. And we can't assume as educators that our students are all going to have the same point of view, right? Our students also have their own political points of view, especially middle schoolers and high schoolers, right? So this actually is going to be felt differently by our students, depending on that, the point of view they have themselves, the point of view of the home. And we can't assume, and we've seen this, through the election, we can't assume just because we know the identity of that student, that we know how that is going to be sort of talked about at home and what their political preferences were. And so all the more reason to keep to do this in very much a nonpartisan way. I mean, in its nature, it's political, right? And it's hard not to talk about it politically, but we should not talk about it through a partisan lens, because I think we do a real disservice to our students.
Yeah, but I challenge that though, right? Because is it really politically aligned, or is it like? Because and the reason why I say me and you, we vote the same, right?
Yep.
And so when
we're at least registered the same.
we're registered, yeah. We're registered to what do you say?
Yeah, I'm pointing at y'all. I don't know if the cameras are all in the same position.
Yeah. We're at least registered the same, yes.
There's a difference between a political affiliation or like a party mindset. Then I think this feels a little different. Like when I think about party, I think about big government, right? So like not wanting big government would be a reason why you would vote Republican. Being a socialist and wanting everybody to pay for your shit is why you would vote Democrat.
Yeah, but the reality is that this was political violence, right? Yeah. This individual was targeted because of his viewpoints on, the college definition of politics is the authoritative allocation of values, right? Determining who gets what, when, and how. He had views on who gets what, when, and how, and those views were at least, we believe some of why this individual was targeted, and so it is political in nature. Right. But I think we need to pull the partisanness out of it. Right. Like we need to say, like, it's not about whether we agreed with those political views or disagreed with those political views through a partisan lens. What can't stand, and I think the way G started is like we can't have political violence of any, like in any direction of any stripe. It is unacceptable. Right. And that's why we need to be really careful about how educators talk to this about students. They can't let partisanness slip into that conversation, because that's when it gets, I think, really tricky. But in its nature, it is inherently political, because I believe anyway, that's why he was targeted.
Yeah. I think that's right. And also why, it's so important as leaders to kind of try to get out in front of it as soon as possible, to say like, listen, like this is like, you can have many different feelings and responses to this news, some of which may or may not be in line with our school's values, but like, here's what our school's response is going to be. And like, this is what we expect you to kind of adhere to, both like, prioritizing and reassuring physical safety, like making sure that that we're clearing up any misconceptions in like a factual, neutral basis, and then we like move on to maintain the kind of consistency and stability that we have come to that students have come to expect, right? And so like I think if we are able to do those things, that helps us to kind of manage the situation at a system level, while also making sure that we let teachers know, like, hey, like if you have some students that you've had certain kind of conversations with, or you think that they might be kind of in that part of the internet, so to speak. You want to keep a close eye on them, see if they have any like major reactions or mood swings or other behaviors that might need referral or something like that. But that's from the level of like making sure that students are feeling cared for, and separates out the kind of political nature of that incident. At least that's the approach that we took.
How are y'all thinking about the being clear on the approach with parents, right? Like, what is is that something that you said, hey, this is to parents, we know this happened, right? This is the way we're going to approach it as a school. Is that something that you read parents into from an approach perspective? I'm trying to get a sense of like, my son's schools have been quiet, right? There's been nothing.
Everybody's school has been quiet because that's the nature of the beast, because it's like you can't, if you have to be really careful in terms of the words that you choose, right? And so I'm pretty sure in New York City there's going to be a universal message that'll come out, right? And like leaders won't be able to kind of sway from like what that universal message is, regardless of whatever they believe. And charter schools have a little bit more flexibility in terms of like being able to craft like whatever language you want to use, but like generally, like school leaders should stay away from these types of things, right? Because like,
no, I think that's right.
Yeah, and I think that there's a resource that I use kind of as a guide on this stuff that's like how to talk about violence with students, and also like it gives some advice to families as well, to kind of reassure the safety of the space that they are in, and helping to give some clarity about what is going to remain consistent, so that families are aware. But again, we also didn't send out those messages because the situation was ongoing and we didn't know what was like how it was all going to unravel. But it is something that we were prepared to kind of communicate once we had a better handle on the situation in general. But I mean, I think the best thing that we can offer to parents in this is to just keep an eye on and an ear out for conversations, communications, mood swings, changes in behavior, and or like imbalance or increased interest in these types of topics, and we can kind of use that as a way to connect with students via counselors or social workers, what have you.
And how do you think about? I'm sorry.
Another challenge, right? And like I think we can't gloss over this as well, is that like we have staff members that are going to be deeply affected by this.
That's right.
And so like we have to, not only are we having to keep our eyes out on the students for like imbalances and like any behaviors that they may present, we also have to keep your eyes out on staff members for behaviors that they may present as well.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's important, right? Because just like we don't know I think this will impact staff as diversely as it impacts the students that we work with, potentially even more so, because I think most adults in this, I'll use an I statement. What I am struggling with is what seems to be sort of a never-ending train of political violence, right? It feels like it is a constant, routine thing. And so I think, you're barely over the last event and the next event happens, regardless of how you feel about the partisan nature of the individuals who've been targeted. It is sort of a constant barrage of really scary news for adults, right? And so, and those things tend to can accumulate on a person. And so I think we have to keep an eye out for our staff to make sure that they're able to give to the students 100% that they need to give to the students.
Yeah. So I'm going to push you guys, right? Because what we just did for 20 minutes, we just talked about an incident, but for 20 minutes, we didn't talk about another incident that we probably should have talked about and probably should have been the focus. And that was the school shooting that happened in Colorado. Yeah. And so we are guilty because of me, right? Because I like to prove points in terms of like why we have these types of conversations and why we're able to have like these nuanced conversations from the levels that we bring it. Is that when a school shooting happens, it has become so normalized in
Yeah.
American culture to where the news cycle will only cover it for like a half of a day, and then all of a sudden it's like thoughts and prayers, and that's it.
Yep.
And we're not talking collectively about what needs to be done in order to keep these kids safe in schools.
That's right. No, you're 100% right, and I think we have not thought. You all know, for me, we have difference of opinions on the cell phones in schools, right? And you've all, and G, you started by saying, thankfully, our students don't have access to phones, right? But that right there, because we have not been able to properly address violence in schools, is the reason why I feel that it is imperative for my children to have phones on them when they're in school. Right, because that link, that contact is the thing that I will live and die by as a parent. God forbid something to happen to one of my kids' schools, and so that those phones be locked away is that, like, that's the thing. We have not been able to solve this, nor do I think have we built the infrastructure around how to at least feel like we're making progress on solving this. And so it's not solved, and we haven't actually made any progress.
Yeah.
No, I challenge that thinking.
What,
sir.
we practice school drills and lockdown drills. That's not progress.
That's not where I'm going. And I hate those drills. Those drills take away from instruction. So
Yep.
And we need every second in order to make sure that we're competing with those top schools like the Forte Prep. Men's Academy.
Sending all the students to Brown.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But ultimately, like, my goal every day is to make sure that these kids come in better than we found them in terms of their mental acuity, and then also the physical state that parents send them in. Parents send their kids to our schools because they know that they're going to come home safe, right?
Yeah.
And that is the major reason why charter schools are at the top of thoughts for parents, right? They don't want to worry about or have to be concerned with, is my kid fighting? Is my kid being attacked? Is he or she, are they safe? And so I think we do a really good job with providing those safe environments. And we have to have conversations like this in order to make sure, or to ensure that, that level of safety continues for kids.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. All right. So transitioning. How about so your football team is the Jets, right?
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
So I think you guys look kind of all right.
Justin Fields, he was doing some things. He was moving the ball. He's got good instincts, good mobility. They got rid of that wide receiver who dropped that pass at the end of the game to keep the drive going.
They cut him already?
Yeah, they cut him. They cut him immediately.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Which
we're talking about the wrong thing. Can we talk about the only football team that actually plays in New York, who came back from had a crazy comeback on Sunday night, and that is my Buffalo Bills? Can we just talk about that real quick? I know y'all. I don't root for New Jersey teams. I root for New York teams.
I know that Ray. I know Ray roots for a certain Baltimore team, so maybe he has
I know.
About that.
Bro,
somebody was doing a victory lap a little too
soon. When the score was 40-25, like, I went to sleep. I went to sleep secure, thinking that, like, ain't no way. And so when I woke up and I saw this old man being carted on the field to kick the field goal, I was like, wait a minute.
Oh my God.
Where'd they get him from? And then when he made it.
Yeah, I need to learn. Josh Allen is a dog. That guy does not quit. There's no stopping him.
Here's what I'm not going to let you do, right? So by you saying Josh Allen is a dog, it's kind of like you saying that Lamar Jackson isn't. And so I don't want you to do that. because
one
we know
disappeared at
who
the end of that game, and one did not.
Listen, you know what happens in sports, right? When there's too many years in a row when a person gets an MVP, and then all of a sudden you have a Steve Nash year or some shit. And so that's essentially what we have here with this Josh Allen MVP thing, because last year, like, Lamar Jackson threw for 41 touchdowns and 4 interceptions and ran for 900 yards. Nobody's ever done that in the history of the NFL. That guy was the MVP. He gave it to Josh Allen, and I know why. You know why too. It's the Larry Bird mechanism.
Because he was going to marry Hallie Stanfield? Is that what it was?
That or the Larry Bird, Larry
Bird stuff. Yeah. I don't care. 41 points, 41-40. That's what it was. Take it. I'll take it. I'll take the W. Because right around 40-25, I was like, yo, there's not enough alcohol in this space for me right now.
Yeah. Shout out to my colleague Dr. Wilson, because I test ideas out with her prior to, like, running it through y'all, just to make sure that just to make sure that we're in a safe space and that we're going to be employed on Monday. So shout out to Dr. Wilson for
thank you very much.
I mean, we should have them on next week.
Yes, she should definitely come on next week. I gotta get her right. So yes.
I mean, you can talk to her agent or whatever, you know.
Yeah, definitely got to talk to her agent.
Only white roses in the dressing room, I heard, though.
Maybe she can talk about her book. She's got a book coming out on culturally relevant pedagogy.
Oh, let's do that. Yeah.
That she already has a book out. Maybe she comes and does a book talk.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. All right. Closing thoughts. Steve, we'll start with you.
Closing thoughts. Take care of those babies. We got lots of responsibility with the work that we do, not just for the ones that we have at home, but the ones that we have in our offices too. To do what you can to make sure those students are getting everything you can give. Yeah.
G.
It's the beginning of the school year. It's the second week of school over here in New York, and I know that it's always a process to get to the place you want to get to at the beginning of the year, but every second counts, and we want to make sure that all the schools are getting off to a good foot and doing everything they can to create safe and beautiful learning spaces for young people.
Yeah, love that. So my final thought, I've been seeing people across the country killing it, honoring grandparents by bringing them into the schools and, like, doing these photo ops and, like, allowing them to, like, be in the space with their grandkids. National Grandparents Day was September the 7th, and I'm still seeing programming that's happening that's associated with that. And I just want to say shout out to y'all leaders and shout out to the programmers that are bringing these folks in and making that happen. That is such a special thing in order for grandparents to be honored like that. So shout out to y'all. Yeah, I'm doing it next year. I feel like the lapse is, like, too late, but, like, I've already got it in motion for something like that
for next year. No, we gotta do something next year.
Yeah, definitely. All right, fellas, have a good weekend. Steve, who y'all got this weekend, Steve?
Oh, I don't even know. I have to look.
You got the Jets. You got the Jets.
Oh, we got the Jets. That's right. That's why I didn't even think about it, because it's an automatic W.
Oh my God. Yeah. Did you guys hear that?
I thought it was a bye week.
Did you? Oh wow. That's crazy work right there. Did you guys hear Ben Simmons turn down the vet minimum for the Knicks?
Yeah. Yep. Looks like we just scooped up Brogdon.
Okay.
Like earlier today, and Shamit got Shamit back. So I think somebody's gonna get traded because we only have one spot. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
I think Ben Simmons thinks he's a different player than he is.